Welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD. You want to follow me on Twitter? And it's Friday, October 25th. And we'll be taking a look at NFL Week 8 for GPP strategy on DraftKings. Maybe we'll touch on FanDuel a little bit, but hit that thumbs up button on your way in the door. Give me those thummy thumbs. Give us all of your thumbs. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. We got NBA's back, so we got tons of stuff going on the site. We got NBA Grinders Live. We got Crunch Time. We got all the premium content. We got shot quality. The NBA projection. So that's new here at RotoGrinders. You can get a combo light package, right, which gets all the 4 major sports and SimLabs and our premium written content and our research tools like Court IQ and Gridiron IQ. You get all that for one low price of $39.99 a month. So click on that link in the description and you'll find out more information on that. But we got 13 games, no buys in week 8. So let's get right down to it with SquirrelPatrol, John Breslin. We're going to talk about how we could win these either small field or large field GPPs. And as we always do, we put the teams in tiers, A, B, C, D, F. Typically, we're talking about stacks, right? Which are like multiple players from a team or a game. And just because a team is in the F tier doesn't mean you can't play one off. And it's all ownership adjusted. So the more that they're owned, they may move down the list, and the more under-owned they are, they move up the list. But John, I think this is. I know we always say, "Wow, this is an interesting slate," right? Oh, it's really interesting. I think this is the most interesting slate of the entire year so far, week 8, because it feels like there are tons of spots that are like sort of mispriced, and we got a lot of high totals but big spreads. I think there are a lot of ways to go, and I also think the field is going to also condense in a lot of spots. So I think there are going to be options to find low owned, especially for a 13-game slate where, maybe not anyone was going to be like absurdly owned. That there'll be a spot where some team just puts up 40 points that is 7% owned or something like that.
Yeah, it's so it's a massive slate. It's the first big slate we've had in a while, probably like a couple months. I guess football just started in early September, but it's been probably like 6 weeks since we had like a 13, 14 game slates on FanDuel. And it feels much smaller, I think, than like the 13 games. It feels like 2 games. It feels like it's like Jalen McMillan and Tyreek Hill are the 2 games going on. Because I think, they're going to be very highly on the wide receiver. But I think it's going to be a week where my lineups look much different from like the cash game lineups. And I think that's generally a good feeling for me. So.
Okay, so let's start with the first game on the slate. We're gonna run through these 13 games. So let's try to get this 45 minutes and then we're out for the viewers out there. We got the Ravens at the Browns. The Ravens have a 26.25 implied team total. Cleveland 18.25, so that's a pretty hefty spread, 8-point spread. We got the Browns. Jameis Winston should be starting. We have him in the projections. Obviously, you got Lamar there at 8K. One of the things on the slate is that I don't think we're going to be struggling to play who we want, because there's enough underpriced players and value in there that if you wanted to play Lamar Jackson at 8K, pair him up with the $6,800 Zay Flowers. If you want to play Derrick Henry at 8,100, I mean, you can't. I mean, I don't think price is an issue when we're talking about team stacks. But I think people still respect the Browns defense, and I'm not sure how efficient the Browns are necessarily going to be in this game. And we always say on this show, right? You've said before, John, that we typically prefer Lamar in games where the game is more competitive and not ones where they have a nice 2-touchdown lead. How much interest do you have in the Ravens on Sunday?
So in terms of the passing game, it's interesting because we talk about stacks here. And I might have a creative stack, but like for the Ravens passing game, probably not that much interest. I'll say C. They've got a good implied point total. It's a little bit of a tough one because Zay Flowers was hurt, then he was back on Monday. So I'm assuming like Zay Flowers is in. I'll give it a C. Something I might be really interested in is Derrick Henry and the Baltimore defense, though, as a potential stack with Jameis Winston and and Derrick Henry and the Browns defense. I think I'd be interested in Henry. Henry is minus 330 for a touchdown. Like that's totally insane. Like his anytime touchdown prop. His 2-touchdown prop is plus 150. I will often see a running back, that has a plus 150 anytime touchdown prop, and that'll be like a running back I'm interested in on the slate. Like, yeah, plus 150 to score touchdowns. 2 touchdowns plus 150 for Derrick Henry. So yeah, I'll put the Ravens overall as a C stack.
Derrick Henry is probably not going to be that owned. He'll probably be double-digit owned. He'll probably be 10 to 15% owned. But on a slate where there are some cheaper running backs, maybe in the 7K range, they're going to be a little bit more popular. And the fact that maybe, you'll be able to fit in an $8,100 player into your flex. I'm not a Derrick Henry person, but I never mind playing Derrick Henry when he's lower owned. How much interest, though, do you have in the Browns? Typically, the way that you compete with the Ravens is to pass the ball. I know on a 13-game slate, I'm not a big fan of playing 18-point implied total teams, but Winston's 5,200. None of his receivers. Njoku's 5,100, but like Tillman 33, Elijah Moore 37, Jerry Jeudy 48. If they at least are competent in moving the ball, Jameis Winston has no problem chucking. Like he'll throw 3 or 4 interceptions, but he'll also throw for 300 yards in the process. The issue I have here, if it was a normal week, I would say, let's go with this Browns vomit stack. I'm just not sure you need vomit stacks this week. Like, I don't think this is a week where, if I could just play Winston, Tillman, and Njoku, and then I could just fit in like one-off $8,500 running back and one-off Kyron Williams, one-off CeeDee Lamb, I don't think it's that. I think if you're spending the money, you're probably spending it on the stack and not you're using the value plays as one-offs. So from a price perspective, I still think the Browns, they're not an F-tier team, but I don't think you're crazy for playing that. I put them in the D tier, the you're not crazy for playing them, but I'm probably not kind of tier.
Wait, you're putting them in the D?
In the D. Or do you think they should be do you actually think that the Brown stack is much more viable than even I think it is? Because my natural inclination is to say yes, but I just the context of the slate just doesn't dictate. Like, I'd rather just stack a team that has a 25 plus implied total, and then use like Jerry Jeudy as a one-off. Like use Cedric, use like one of these guys rather than Winston plus 2 it.
Right. So I agree with that logic. I would still make them a B. The Ravens give up the most passing yards per game in the NFL, and all of the receivers are I think all the receivers are under 5,000. Unless it's Jeudy. Yeah, 4,800. All the receivers are under 5,000. They've got a good pass catching tight end. The quarterback loves to air the ball out, and he's only 5,200. I agree with your logic that we might not need the savings, but they don't know what their DraftKings prices are. So if they end up scoring, the implied point total is low. So I'm not going to go crazy with Brown stacks, but I think they're a solid B.
Okay. That's my natural inclination. In just the context of the slate, I wanted to kind of push them down. The next game, we got the Titans heading to Detroit to play the Lions. The Lions have one of the highest implied team totals on the slate, 28.25. Titans, one of the lowest, 16.75. So that's one hell of a spread, almost 12 points. I say this every time, every Friday when it comes to the Lions. Think they have a great offense, but good luck figuring out where the ceiling comes from, because they could go to 2 running backs, 3 different receivers. I know Jamison Williams is out because he's suspended for 2 games. But like, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 8,400 seems like a stretch when you can play Tyreek Hill at 7,000. I know they've been great, but I mean, take Jahmyr Gibbs at 7,400. Like, to me, I like playing Jahmyr Gibbs when it's a much more competitive game, not a game where they could get up and just pound the rock with David Montgomery, unless maybe he's the guy that you play. I don't think I have any interest on the Titans side, and I don't think this is the context of the slate to play Tony Pollard at 6,500, even if he has the backfield to himself against the Lions' rush defense. I don't know about you, but I know the Lions have a high implied team total, but this feels like a game that I could fade.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm kind of surprised to see the Lions implied point total so high. I'll defer to Vegas, but I'd give the Lions a C, but they're probably only earning a C because Jameson Williams is going to be out, which opens up like some of the cheaper wide receivers. Tim Patrick's like 3,500, Cleve Raymond 3,400. So I think you can use them as maybe like really low owned value plays if you were looking to pivot from the other value plays at wide receiver. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm probably not going to get there at 8,400. You're right. The Titans give up, I think, the fewest yards in the NFL. So they don't score, but they don't give up points either. So I don't know if Detroit's really going to get over 28 points here. But I'll give them a C based off of some value. The Titans, I'm just going to put them in F tier.
Right. So we have no interest in the I mean, not playing a Rudolph, Ridley. I mean, to be fair, DeAndre Hopkins is gone.
Sure.
They have to throw the ball to someone. Is Calvin Ridley actually going to catch the ball? Is this going to turn into something? I mean, they are missing people. And the line, if they're going to be behind, the Titans are going to have to throw the ball. But I think we're both looking at each other going, yeah, I still don't want to do it.
Yeah, I could see like Tony Pollard getting a couple extra passes, but I don't want to play him against a good rush defense. And so I don't know. Like I am happy to just not play the Titans passing game until they beat me once, right? And then I'll start thinking about it.
Okay, next game we got the Colts at the Texans. Texans are a 5-point favorite with a 25.25 implied team total. The Colts with a 20.25 team total. The only really owned player in this game is going to be Joe Mixon at 7,700. He should be one of the top 5 owned running backs on the slate, if not top 3, if not top 1. Anthony Richardson is, I mean, he obviously has a ceiling. Good luck stacking him with anyone because it doesn't seem like he could throw the ball. Jonathan Taylor will be back for this game. CJ Stroud and the Texans passing offense without Nico Collins does not look the same as it did last year. And at these prices, you got Dell at 6,300, Diggs at 7,500, Stroud 6,900. They seem a bit overpriced, even though I like attacking the Colts defense. I don't know about you, but I think maybe the field is right that it's Joe Mixon. The obvious leverage is to play the Stroud stack. So I can't put him that far down just due to that. But I'm not really interested in playing the Colts because Anthony Richardson hasn't shown that he could carry any receivers, with him, even when he performs well.
Yeah. So I'll play some Anthony Richardson. I don't know that I'll even force it to pair him with a wide receiver. And I think it's a large field kind of play. But I mean, he was somebody we were really excited about playing in week 1, and he did really well. But yeah, I mean, there's always a possibility he doesn't finish the game. I'd put the Colts maybe in D because
with
play
the
some Anthony.
asterisk that it's that the team stack is just a naked quarterback.
Yeah, I'll pair him with someone in some lineup. So
Mo Alley Cox at 2,700. You pair him with the tight end, right, or something like.
Yeah, I mean, somebody could catch a long touchdown. But I mean, it's not really an appealing spot. I think the Texans give up the fourth fewest passing yards per game. We don't know that Anthony Richardson can really pass other than like connecting on some deep shots. I mean, those deep shots can be useful sometimes, and if he gets one long passing touchdown, you get the rate receiver and he rushes gets 2 rushing touchdowns, then that's a really useful score, but it's something I'll like pursue in large field tournaments, not like smaller field stuff, and it's enough to earn them a D.
And where are we putting the Texans?
Really trying to decide between B and C. I do think there's some leverage off of like Joe Mixon, but I don't know how much I'll really get there, but it's decent. Like it's not terrible. 25 and a quarter implied point total. You were getting some leverage. I would probably do B. I think it's decent.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just think
it's expensive. I just think there's other stacks that are similarly priced that I'd rather play, but we'll get to them. I mean, we'll shift. Remember, but at the end we have to make it so that it's all symmetrical. So maybe we end up moving the Texans anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Next game, we got the Packers at the Jaguars. We got the Packers with the 26.5 implied team total as a 4-point road favorite against the Jaguars, who have a 22.5 implied team total. Jordan Love for fantasy purposes is great. I would love to play Packers stacks. The problem is he throws to everyone, and everyone is pretty much healthy. So you got Reed there, you got Kraft, you got Dobbs, you got Watson, you got Wicks, then you got Jacobs and Wilson out of the backfield, and I think the Jaguars. I mean, I think Packers get into these games where they become shootouts, but the Jaguars are kind of almost a similar team where if you stack Lawrence, you got Engram, you got Thomas, you got Kirk, you got Gabe Davis there also. It's weird for me to say, like, I like the game, but I feel like you have to like pick randomly on like who are you going to stack these guys with? I mean, what do you like? I have to rate both these teams high, but I'm just not sure how you play the stacks.
But I think that's a good thing. Like I think it's a good thing. There's some uncertainty. I think it's going to keep ownership down. I was going to give the Packers an A. They've got a high implied point total. They're going up against a weak passing defense. Jacksonville gives up the second most passing yards in the NFL. You've got a really good quarterback in Jordan Love. The issue is we don't know which of the receivers, but like I'll take some Jaden Reed shots. You take 2 Packers receivers. That's something that a lot of people aren't going to do because they're going to be going to all the value receivers. I think you can. Then you use some other value plays to make this work. But yeah, I think you can do it. I think the Packers are an A.
Now, how about the Jaguars? Are they a B?
Yeah, I think I'd give them a B. It's true that I probably do prefer like the Jaguars to the Texans. So Houston's at risk of being dropped down. We'll see how things shape up. But I'd give Jacksonville a B. I think Evan Ingram's really well priced at 5,000 at tight end. Brian Thomas looks really good as a rookie wide receiver. I think you can maybe take some shots on the like Christian Kirk and Gabe Davis in large field tournaments. But I'd give him a B. I think this is a good game to get to.
And I think it's going to be underowned.
Yeah.
I don't think it's be unowned, but I think the piece is based on, who do I play? So I just play no one and then go to a different game. But I think the game could score a lot of points. Next game, probably the most important game to talk about on the slate. We got the Cardinals at the Dolphins. The Dolphins are a 4-point favorite with a 25-point implied team total. Cardinals 21-point implied team total. And why do the Dolphins have a 25-point implied team total rather than the 16s they've had the past couple of weeks? That's because Tua is back. And it looks like the sites just forgot that he's going to be back. And Tua is 6,100, which is okay. That's fine. But then we got Devon Achane at 6,200, which is okay. Then we got Waddle at 5,400, and Tyreek Hill is 7,000. We were playing Tyreek Hill in this type of spot at like 9,200, like in the beginning of the season, and he was a 40% owned cash play, like 40% owned in tournaments and at 80% owned in double ups. I'm assuming Tua +2 is going to be popular, but it's quite possible it's warranted because, I mean, who else did they throw? I mean, like, it's not only that they're underpriced, but the Dolphins' offense is pretty condensed also, and they're cheap enough where, like, a lot of times, like, Waddle would be priced up at like 6,800 or 7,000, and Tyreek would be 9,500. And it's like, well, Achane would be 7,400, and you're like, well, now it's expensive. Now I'd just rather play one of them as a one-off. And Tua would be like 6,900. But now, I mean, they're at the prices where if you wanted to play Tua plus Waddle plus Hill, you could still play. You don't have to play a 3K crapper or some garbage defense even in that lineup. Like, you could actually get a real lineup in. So outside of ownership, it really, I mean, truthfully, John, I think the rating of this, like, if you think that they're going to be reasonably owned, I think this is still an A-tier team. But if you think they're going to be like massively owned, then I'd start bumping them down because, like, our ownership, I think is low. I mean, like, Tyreek Hill, I don't think is going to be 21% owned. Like, I don't think Achane is going to. I think all these guys, Waddle 14. I think these numbers could end up being double.
Yeah, I agree. I think Tyreek Hill is going to see insane ownership. I'm probably going to end up under the field on Tyreek Hill, but like, it's one of those situations where he's going to be probably my highest owned wide receiver, and I'm probably going to be under the field. I think you've got to give them you've got to at least knock them down to be on ownership. And I'm not sure how anxious I am to play to it either. But I'll be playing a lot of Tyreek Hill and a lot of Achane. I don't know if I'm that excited about Waddle either. So I'll give them a B. We should probably just move Houston down to C right now.
Okay, so you but I mean, but it's for the main reason. Like, if you told me the ownership was actually in check, like, even if the Dolphins, it's one of these situations, especially with NBA back that I always mention, that just because a player or a team is chalk doesn't mean that it makes it like over-owned, right? We're like in NBA, we may have an 82% owned player that really should be 90% owned, so he's really under-owned. So the Dolphins will probably be the highest owned team. But it's possible they're the highest owned team and still under-owned. I just, if you could tell me Tyreek Hill was going to be 20% owned on Sunday, I'd be playing a ton of him. I mean, like, he'd be under-owned, even though being high-owned. But I think the algorithms and the computers that come up with the, rational human beings, like, no, I think how do you look at Tyreek Hill at 7K with his prop is like 6.5 for like 83.5 or something, with a touchdown prop of like -130, and he's 7K. He's going to be 40% owned.
Yeah, I think he's going to be 40% owned. I think you're right. And but it's a good spot. I don't know if you've been playing NBA, but we had the first 3K starting point guard of the year last night in Bub Carrington, and he busted. He had a bad game, and he was still in the winning lineup, because salary matters. And he's, I think he may have had like 15, 16 fantasy points, which was way under his projection. But it was 3K, and he's a starting point guard, and he was like 70% owned. So the optimal lineup probably didn't have him. the winning lineup did. And there's a good chance, like, even if Tyreek Hill doesn't get a touchdown, there's a good chance if he, as long as he doesn't get hurt, that, if he puts up a 6-reception, 70-yard game at what is probably going to be 40% ownership, there's a good chance he's in the winning lineup because so many teams are going to have him. I'll probably be right there with them. I don't know if I'm going to go like 40%, but he'll be one of my highest wide receivers, to be sure.
Well, one way to play Tyreek Hill in a unique way, quote unquote, combinatorically, and getting some correlation is to play the Cardinals. So to play like a Murray, McBride, Tyreek type of thing. So what is your interest in the Cardinals? They have a 21-point implied total, which is not like, it's not bad. It's not bad. And Kyler Murray, obviously at 6,400, is the type of quarterback that has a ceiling. So how much interest do you have in where are we putting the Cardinals here?
Yeah, I think I'd give them a B. They're not underpriced, but that's okay. Actually, I do like that. I like the idea of playing I like playing Kyler Murray probably better than playing Tua. Like Kyler Murray could get a big rushing day, and then let's say Kyler Murray gets a 40-yard touchdown. Like that's going to give him a good score most likely, assuming he's adding his average passing output. And then suddenly maybe Tyreek Hill's getting the ball more often, right? So I think that's I like that. I'll put the Cardinals up in B.
Okay, next game. This may be a quick one. The Jets at the Patriots. This game has a 41 implied total, 41-point total. Jets with a 24-point implied total, which is pretty good. But that's because they're playing the Patriots. So they're a touchdown road favorite. In this game, the only player that's seeing any amount of ownership really is Breece Hall. He's probably going to be the highest owned running back on the slate, if not one of the top 2 or 3. He's 7,300. Everyone else is just, I don't know. I Drake May plus who? And then you got the Jets, who now with Devontae Adams in the mix, now like everyone's kind of overpriced. Like it's like Devontae Adams is probably not going to turn into old school Devontae Adams. They still got Wilson there, and they're still feeding Breece Hall the ball. I think I'm much more interested in this. This is a weird way to put it. I'm much more interested in fading Breece Hall than I am to play a Rodgers stack as leverage, right? To just say the Jets Patriots game just goes like it's a 17-6 game, and you didn't need any, like maybe you play the defenses.
Yeah, I'll probably put both teams in D. There's something to be said for like Aaron Rodgers and like Garrett Wilson's 6,700. Like, what if like Garrett Wilson doesn't need to have a tremendous game to pay off that price tag? So and then you're getting leverage off the Breece Hall potentially, or you do like an Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall stack, and that's not crazy. So yeah, I'd put it at D. Drake May's had 2 pretty good games actually to start his career. So I would put, like, I don't want to pick on the Jets defense, the Patriots. Yeah, 17 implied point total. Like that's not great, but I'd put them in D. I think you can put like Drake May and Hunter Henry in a lineup, and you've got and put Breece Hall in there, and you're filling out maybe a secondary stack or something from a high total game, and I think that's a reasonable way to go. So I think they both avoid the F.
Next game, this is an important game also that we got to talk about. The Falcons at the Buccaneers. Falcons are about a 2.5, almost 3-point road favorite. The Falcons have a 24.25 implied team total. The Buccaneers have a 21.75 implied team total. And the big news here is that, everyone on the Buccaneers is hurt. So Bucky Irving will not be playing this game. And Evans and Godwin. Godwin's out for the year. Evans is probably out for a while. So you got Baker Mayfield has been playing pretty good this year, but now he's got Jalen McMillan and Trey Palmer and Sterling Shepard and Cade Otton and Rashad White out of the backfield. Cade Otton is probably going to be pretty owned on this slate at 3,500. Probably owned on both sides like that. I think a lot of people will play Jalen McMillan at 3,700 because, he's a rookie and, we've most likely seen what Trey Palmer and Sterling Shepard do. We'll talk about the Falcons after this because I have a take on that. But how excited are you to play a Mayfield, Otten, McMillan lineup that Mayfield may not be that owned, but both those receivers are going to be like value plays in so many other people's lineups?
Yeah, I'll give it a C. I think the ownership on some of the individual pieces is a concern, right? And I think people are going to be running automated stuff that's going to get them a lot of Baker Mayfield, because the receivers are so cheap. This is it's an injury, or I guess 2 injuries that happened on Monday night, so pricing was set. These receivers are going to be super cheap. I'm a little worried from a sim perspective because people are going to be running these sims, and there's going to be a correlation set between quarterback and wide receiver. The wide receivers are going to be so cheap, and I think we're going to see a lot more of these stacks than we maybe would have seen a couple of years ago. And I'm not sure how excited I am. From a real football perspective, if you have your 2-star receivers go down on Monday night, now you've got to play on Sunday. I think the Falcons are a worse rushing defense than a passing defense. Why wouldn't you just try to run the ball? And try to run the ball first until that doesn't work, or you need to start passing. So I think this is chalk that's maybe a little bit more tenuous than the field is going to realize, and that optimizers are going to realize and stuff like that. So I'll put them as a C.
The Falcons, on the other hand, have been very popular the past couple of weeks because they've been underpriced, and the Falcons' offense is actually pretty good. Even though Kirk Cousins doesn't seem to look right, at least from a mobility perspective, I think this game has a much higher variance than people think. On the Buccaneers offense, the Buccaneers passing defense is, I have no problem playing. I'll play any team against the passing game against them. I think either one of two things happen. What you said, the Buccaneers come in and go, we're just going to run the ball a lot, right? And then the Falcons come in and go, you know what? We're going to run the ball a lot. And next thing you know, the game's over, and it's 3:00, right? It's the first game over on Red Zone, and you're like, how come we didn't see many plays on Red Zone from that game? Is because the game is 14-10 and the game is over, right? Something like that. Or Tampa Bay has their normal game plan and they fall flat on their face, and the Falcons just get a ton of short fields and just run over the Buccaneers. So I kind of like Drake London and Bijan Robinson in this spot when they're not going to be super owned. Bijan at 7,200, people are going to be playing 5, 6, 7 other running backs. And Drake London at 7,200 when Tyreek Hill is 7,000. It's quite possible Drake London comes in at 10% owned or something. I'm not saying you play Drake London instead of Tyreek Hill, but you could play him in a Tyreek Hill lineup. I'm not sure how much love I have for a Cousins stack, but the Falcons in general, I just think for a 24-point implied team total against a team that defensively gives up a lot of passing yards, I just don't think many people are going to play them on this slate. And it's one of those flop lag things. Everyone has been playing the Falcons for 3 previous weeks, and then it's oh, well, now we got the Dolphins. We don't need the Falcons anymore. And I just think they should be higher owned than this. So I think even our ownership is low, is high on London at 14%. I think he comes in at 9 or 10. I think Bijan comes in at 5%. And these are two people that could score 30 plus points.
It's interesting. I was going to put them at a B, but you are kind of talking me into an A. Because I was thinking Drake London's going to be higher because I think he's in a great spot. Tampa Bay gives up the 4th most receiving yards per game. This is a quarterback that just threw for 500 yards against this team a few weeks ago. I was thinking they're going to be higher owned, but I can't really justify the math because you're right. Like Drake London's 7,200. We're showing Tyreek Hill with 20% ownership. We think it might be double that. Like, where is that going to come from? Probably other 7K-ish wide receivers. Well, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. I'll leave them in an A.
Yeah, you talked me into it. I was going to put him in the B, and you talked me into an A because also the thing that you could do with the Falcons, if you do play a Cousins stack, you could play McMillan and Otten in these lineups now, and you're at least competing correlatively against the other lineups that have them as value plays with the Falcons rather than other random teams.
I'll say that if I set some like simple rules, like simple stacking rules, and then start cranking out optimal lineups, I get a bunch of Kirk Cousins stacks. So it could be higher owned than we're thinking, but I'm not sure on that because of the Tyreek Hill factor. I don't know. And maybe that's just an indication that it's good. I'm worried. I do think that people are going to start running this like sim stuff. And there's going to be correlations between like the K-Dot and Jalen McMillan and some of the Falcons guys. And so we might see higher Falcons ownership, but we might see lower. Because like if I'm saying like Tyreek Hill is going to be 40% owned, then Drake London probably isn't, can't be that highly owned. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting question. We'll leave them at A for now. I think it's a good spot to get to.
Right, but if you're watching or listening, it's like this is the asterisk contingent. Like you can move if you think the Falcons are actually going to be more owned than we think, then bump them down to B. Right? I mean, but I'm of the impression that our ownership is just like it's. I think it's too low on the Dolphins. I think it's too high on the Falcons.
Yeah.
Let's see. Of course, Stephen Smith asked. He just jumped on. Does Tyreek Hill seem underprojected? I'm asking to compare guys like Drake and his. I don't think he's underprojected. I think
maybe ownership underprojected.
Right, ownership underprojected.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next game. The Eagles at the Bengals. The Bengals are a 3-point home favorite. Bengals have a 25.5 implied team total. The Eagles have a 22.5 implied team total. Everyone in this game seems reasonably priced. They're prices that I would expect. Maybe T. Higgins, maybe slightly underpriced at 6,500. I think he'll be 15-ish% owned at wide receiver. But everyone else is, I mean, they're fine. Both these teams have ceilings. You could play Hurts, AJ Brown. You could play Barkley as a one-off. You could play Burrow stacks. Burrow doubles have come in this year. I like the game environment. I mean, these are two teams that could have big plays on both sides. The problem is that on the context of the slate, like there are better players to play. There are better projected players to play at all of these price points. But that makes me more interested. Like I'll have you rank the stacks. But I think I'm much more interested in playing like Chase or Brown or Barkley as like one-offs that are going to be like single-digit owned rather than play, a stack of, three people from a team. But I'm willing to change my mind on this because we could, like we said with Lamar, we could afford it. If you want, we have value that you could afford a Burrow stack or a Hurts. If you play Hurts, it would be Hurts, Hurts. And plus, you can play Calcaterra, I guess, at tight end as a cheap piece at 3,200. Maybe I'm talking myself up a little bit more, but this game could, it has a 48-point total. I mean, one big play to AJ Brown, one big play to Jamar Chase, and this game is off to the races.
Yeah, I was going to give both teams an A. I love this game. You've got AJ Brown and Jamar Chase. They're not seeing ownership. It's a competitive, like relatively high total. The ownership's not going to gravitate there because, like you said, everything is about appropriately priced. On a week where there's a lot of stuff that's like mispriced, this game's like just perfectly well priced, but it could easily shoot out. So like take the value pieces, stack this game. I'll probably be playing this game in a few different ways because but I want to get over the field, I think, on like AJ Brown and Jamar Chase and like use the value because it's going to be like, I don't think these high priced wide receivers are going to see a ton of ownership. And like compared to Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think I'd much rather play Jamar Chase or AJ Brown and use the value to get there. And you can do it. Like you can put in like a Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Jamar Chase lineup. I think T. Higgins is going to see a pretty decent amount of ownership. And it's fine. Like, but yeah, like play Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. See if you can maybe put in Saquon Barkley, and then you're playing these really a super bunch of the 3,000 wide receivers, and I guess maybe Kate Otten, or Eric Hall or something like that. I really like the idea of getting over the field in this game. And it's two teams that have really talented offenses that are both kind of need a win. I'd go. I like this game.
Well, one of the key things about this show on Fridays for GPPs versus Wednesday, when we talk more of cashed high projection, is that projections are medians. And if you're like, well, this guy projects 1 point higher than this, is like at a median. But if you're playing double ups, you care a lot about medians. When you play GPPs, you care a lot about ceilings. So it's like, well, Jamar Chase is, he's fairly priced. His projection is 18.82 at 8,500. AJ Brown is 17.7 at 8,200. And this guy Drake London is that for 72, which is does in the range of outcomes, like these are the means, but these are two guys that have range of outcomes that have 40, 50 point games in it. And if that happens, it doesn't once I say this sometimes. I think you say it also. And maybe JM to win also says it. It's that once the game starts, like the salaries in your lineup don't matter anymore. Like whether or not he was 8,200 or 5,200, if he scores 40 points, it doesn't matter what the salary is. Can these guys score 40 points? Yes. So you're going to need them no matter what their price is.
Yeah, and I think that's like the theme of the week. I think is that you can pretty quickly just you don't even have to look at projections. If you're just paying attention to NFL injuries and watching NFL games, you can sit down and come up with a pretty well median projected lineup because it's like, oh, this guy's 3,000 and his teammates just got hurt. The Browns have Jameis Winston instead of Deshaun Watson. I'm gonna get some Elijah Moore into my lineup or whatever. But you need to it's easy to find the value. It's hard to find the outlier performances. And so that's what I'm searching for with Cincinnati and Philadelphia. And I think a lot of these places that could have outlier performances are going to go under.
Okay, let's get to the next game. Going on by. Let's try to keep this under an hour. Okay, now we got the 4 p.m. games. This should be a quick one. We got the Saints at the Chargers. The Chargers are a touchdown favorite at home. 24-point implied team total. The Saints with a 17-point implied team total. They're going to get Olave back, but they still have Spencer Rattler at quarterback. Maybe they mix in Taysom Hill a little more. He should be back. I don't have much interest in the Saints. I think Lad McConkey at 5,100 is going to be kind of a popular, mean, his projection is going to look good as the last piece in your lineup for 5,100. And I also think J.K. Dobbins at 6,900 is going to get, he gets unreasonable amount of steam. We show him at 12% owned, but I think he ends up coming in at more 18 to 20 because whatever you expect J.K. Dobbins to be is always going to be higher than that. I'm just not interested in this game. Do I want to play a Herbert lineup? Herbert, McConkey type. I just don't think this. I don't think the Chargers don't play in a way that is conducive to shootouts. And I don't think the Saints have a quarterback and that could do that. Can he play Kamara? Can he play any of these guys as one-offs? I guess. But, I would put the Saints in the F tier and the Chargers in the D tier.
It's exactly where I was going to put them. You can make an argument for maybe J.K. Dobbins gets a long receiving touchdown or something like that. So you want to have Justin Herbert, J.K. Dobbins, Lad McConkey. I think McConkey probably needs a touchdown to pay out. He's going to be highly owned, but it's off the strength of more receptions than touchdowns. The Chargers give up 13.8 points per game. That's the fewest in the NFL. I think the Saints have to be an F here. Apologies to TJ if he watches this. And Chargers are slightly better. So, but this game's not going to shoot out most likely. So,
right.
Yep, DNF.
Next game, Buffalo at Seattle. Buffalo. We have a lot of road favorites on this slate. Buffalo 3-point road favorite against the Seahawks. Metcalf doesn't look like he's going to be out as of now, at least. So Josh Allen has Amari Cooper now. He played like 16 snaps, I think, in the last game. Probably play a little bit more now, but the Bills have been much more run heavy than they've been in previously. They have a whole bunch of people, Josh Allen, it's one of those things where like Josh Allen could put up 35 points, and then you look at the rest of the Bills and they don't have, like, everyone has 8 points. You're like, how did the Bills score 35 points and like no one got there other than the quarterback? Geno Smith has been passing like there's no tomorrow, but the Bills are better to be attacked on the ground. Really, no one's going to be owned in this game. No one's going to be reasonably owned. Maybe Jake Bobo, maybe at 3,300 as a value play, as one of the many, Jalen McMillan, Cedric Tillman style value plays on the slate. On FanDuel, by the way, Dalton Kincaid for some reason is 4K. So feel free to punt with the Kincaid over there if you want. Although it's not like he's amazing either. I don't think this is like the Bengals-Eagles game where it's like, oh, Bills Seahawks. This could shoot out and no one's playing it. I don't know. Do I want to play Geno Smith, Tyler Lockett, or Geno Smith and Jigba lineups against the Bills defense? No. Do I want to play Josh Allen +2? No. Maybe Walker or Cook? Maybe. I don't know. I don't have a good feeling about this game. I think I'd probably stack Seattle for Buffalo, but I think a lot of people are going to have the same thoughts as I just did of like nothing looks that appealing, and it's all going to be single digit owned. So I don't think I can put either team in the F tier because they're too low owned to be F tier teams, but I don't see either of these as B tier teams. It really just comes down to are they C or D, I think, to me.
Interesting. All right. So I'd give Buffalo, I'll probably put, I can be talking to a D for Buffalo. They're too expensive. And so Seattle gives up the 4th most rushing yards per game. Buffalo wants to run the ball. Looks like Ray Davis is pretty good. So I could have just be, Cook and Ray Davis and Josh Allen, and so expensive. Like in terms of stacks, like how excited am I about playing a Josh Allen double stack or something? Like just not excited. It's just too expensive for the fact that Buffalo might just run the ball. I would put Seattle actually in B, because they're affordable, and you've got like Jackson Smith and Jigba. You've got Tyler Lockett like right around 6,000. Lockett's like 5,600. Geno Smith 5,900. I don't know. Yeah, like it's not outstanding, but it's really underpriced. Like you can put together a pretty decent lineup, and then maybe run it back with like one Buffalo, tight end like Kincaid or Amari Cooper. And if the game takes off, like it's a possibility. I'll give him a B. And I kind of like Kenneth Walker as well, because he's really contributing in the passing game this year. So I'll give him a B.
Okay. I don't mind that. I don't think this. I think this game has a good chance of hitting its 45-point median. Yeah. I'm just not sure that this is a 70-point game.
Yeah, and I think Kenneth Walker is like an interesting Joe Mixon pivot. I like Mixon, but maybe like it's not inconceivable that Walker outscores Mixon and is the running back you want to have.
Next game, we got the Chiefs on the road as a nearly 10-point favorite against the Raiders. Chiefs have a 25.5 implied team total. The Raiders have the second lowest implied team total, 16 on the slate. We have DeAndre Hopkins is now on the Chiefs, and he's 4,900. We don't project him to play much, or maybe he mixes in and whatever. And then now the Chiefs have become like, I know Sky Moore's on IR, but it's not like he was a factor. Now it's Mahomes and the ragtag crew of wide receivers. But we saw him win a Super Bowl with that last year. And then on the other side, we got Brock Bowers. Obviously, he's the wide receiver one, essentially, as the tight end for the Raiders. And then we've got Kareem Hunt, 6,300. I think he's pretty underpriced on DraftKings for this matchup. I think I'm more interested in playing Kareem Hunt in either of the stacks of these teams. I mean, if you play Mahomes, do you just do Mahomes, Kelsey, and then I guess that would be it. You could even do Mahomes, Hunt, Kelsey, and just hope the Chiefs just run over the Raiders. But I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this game either. The Chiefs have just not shown this year to be the team that goes out and just puts up 40 points. Even if the game isn't as competitive, the Raiders just fall flat on their face. I just think they're going to run the ball with Kareem Hunt, 28 times regardless. So what do you think about the Chiefs and the Raiders?
So I think the Raiders are starting Gardner Minshew. I'm going to give the Raiders an F. 16 implied point total. Oh, man, it's not like they're at home. I was thinking it might be Kansas City. No, like they got a 16 implied point total at home. I still got to give them an F. The Chiefs. So is DeAndre Hopkins? Like, do we have confirmed status? I know it's only like we're doing this on Friday. Is Hopkins like definitely in and a full go? If he is, I don't think that's a terrible play. He's like 4,900.
I think Reed said that. So someone asked, it's like how quick can he get up to speed or whatever to play? And he's like, it's like as quick as we can. I mean, like I think the coach speak is that he will be active, but what does that mean? Because with Sean McVay, he will be active means he will be the number one wide receiver, even though we haven't seen him. I mean, the thing with Puka yesterday, right, just comes off IR and goes immediately into like a super alpha role and plays 56% of the snaps. So you never know. Why do you have interest in playing DeAndre Hopkins at 4,900?
I think so. Maybe it's like a 150 kind of thing, but like, why not? It's a veteran wide receiver. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins used to be one of the top wide receivers in the league. He's kind of bounced around in some bad situations, but now this might be a really good situation. Like this is DeAndre Hopkins pairing up with Patrick Mahomes. Everybody's like prices down too. I don't know. Like Mahomes is 1,000 cheaper than he was most of last season. And that, maybe at the start of last year, right, there's a perception like the Chiefs are this high-powered offense. Like this is probably not going to see that much ownership. It's got a lot of potential. It could just be the Chiefs run the ball, right? But it might not be. And so I don't know. I think it's worth taking some shots here.
Okay, let's go to the next game. Got two more.
Oh, wait.
Yeah. Where are we putting the Chiefs?
I'll give them a C, but I don't know. Like it's competitive between like Kansas City and Seattle, for example. Like I'm more excited about playing Kansas City at super low ownership. But I guess there's I don't know. Like it's actually about the same price. I'll leave it where it is. I'll leave. Well, okay, yeah. All right, we'll just move on. We gotta get to these games.
Right. Okay. Next game. We got the Bears at the Commanders. The Bears are a 3-point road favorite, and that's probably because Jaden Daniels will be out. We have Mariota projected in. The Bears have a 23.25 implied team total. The Commanders have a 20.25 implied team total. I think this game I would be more interested in if Daniels was playing, but I don't have a problem attacking the Commanders' defense. I think oddly enough, I think the Bears are underowned in this. I think they have a 23-point implied total, and I mean, that's higher than the Eagles. I mean, that's almost as high as the Falcons. That's more than the Seahawks. That's, almost as high as the Jets. That's higher than the Jaguars. I mean, like the Bears could put up points, but the problem is that doesn't come. I have interest in Swift, in DJ Moore, in Caleb Williams Moore lineup. I mean, with Mariota at quarterback, I mean, he's not horrible, but I mean, I don't think it's going to be the same Commanders offense that we're, putting up a ton of points with Daniels at quarterback. And I don't think the Commanders defense is particularly great. And Caleb Williams can make big plays. He could also fall flat on his face also. I don't know. I kind of like at this ownership. I mean, I don't see either. And none of these guys are going to be double-digit owned at all. A Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet type of lineup or something like that. I think is, and I can still play Tyreek Hill. I could play Joe Mixon in that lineup. I could still do all of that other stuff. I like the ceiling here, even though the means may not be, the projections may not be the greatest. I don't know. What do you think about the Bears?
I was going to give them a C, but I think you've made a good argument. I think they should be a B. The Commanders' passing defenses look much better than expected this year. I think they're in the top half of the league in terms of passing yards allowed, but they also might just be outperforming. They are overperforming. And what if some of that is coming down to Jaden Daniels able to control the ball on offense, and that's something Marcus Mariota won't necessarily be able to do against a team that's not Carolina. I think there's some sneaky upside here, and they're not going to see any ownership at all. I can't argue against them. I think the Bears deserve.
My natural inclination, John, was to put them into C, and then I'm well, they're C tier, and then you look at ownership and go, well, I got to bump them up to B, because if I think they should be a C tier, the field thinks they should be a D or an F tier, so I'm moving them up to B.
And and DJ Moore is one of those guys that just breaks off 70-yard touchdown catches, and Caleb Williams has looked a lot better. And statistically, this game's not going to jump off the page because the Commanders have a pretty good passing defense so far this year, but they were so bad last year. they maybe there's some regression to the mean, especially with not having a super talented quarterback on the other side, on the other side of the ball now. So all right. And then Commanders.
Where are we putting the Commanders? Are the Commanders what?
I'll give them a D. Marcus Mariota looked decent, coming in relief. But I don't know. The Bears have a pretty good defense. So I wish Jaden Daniels was playing, obviously, but I'll give them a D. I think you can go there. It's not insane, but I don't think it's something I'll go to in large volume.
Okay, last game on the slate. And the most surprising game if you would have told me in week 1 or week 2 that we'd be getting to week 8 and the Broncos would have a 26-point implied total, I think you're absolutely nuts. But they do. They're an 11, almost 10.5-point favorite at home to the Panthers, and that's the reason why they have a 26-point implied total. The Panthers have the lowest implied total on the slate. Do you want to play? How comfortable are you playing Bo Nix chalk or Javonte Williams chalk? I think this is a very, I don't know if outside of I don't even know, outside of Lamar, it's very weird that I think Bo Nix will have more ownership ×2 than any of the pieces that you would pair with Bo Nix. So it's one of those weird things where we're talking about Kate Otten and Jalen McMillan will be owned, but Baker Mayfield will be 4% owned. This will be Bo Nix is going to be 16% owned, but Cortland Sutton and Devon Vele and Troy Franklin and whoever the hell his receivers are all going to be 2% owned. That's a weird way of putting about that. A lot of people I guess are playing Bo Nix naked. Maybe that's a cash game play. And then obviously Javonte Williams at 6K. Javonte Williams is also 6K on FanDuel, so I think he's going to be absurdly chalky on FanDuel. What are we doing? The Broncos. Hey, John, the Broncos have a 26-point implied total against the worst defense in the entire league. But the question is that how do you play it? Does just Cortland Sutton isn't a pumpkin anymore? Where are we putting the Broncos?
So I think I'm going to put the Broncos in C because I think Bo Nix is going to see really high ownership. But Carolina has such a terrible defense, but it's a terrible rushing defense. So like I'm excited about playing Javonte Williams, even he's probably gonna be chalky, but I think it's deserved chalk against the Carolina rushing defense. But I think you're right that like we're talking about like stacking and team stacking, and Bo Nix is like still kind of underpriced, and Bo Nix can pick up some yards on the ground. I don't know that the Broncos might just have an easy win here, and they might just take the easy win, run the ball with Javonte Williams, and Bo Nix doesn't put up an outstanding score, but he's going to project well. Like if you want to play Bo Nix and Vele or whatever, and then stack the rest of your lineup with like pretty high expensive pieces, I think that's going to be a little bit low owned and project well, and like it's a reasonable lineup. So to see. But I'm also I'm not super excited about playing chalky Bo Nix.
Right. Panthers F tier?
Yeah. Yep. I think it's Bryce Young this week.
Yes. But Broncos defense, 3,700. And maybe that's the play. And we got to the end, and look.
Yeah.
I don't know if you planned it out that way. I don't know.
Of course.
It just you planned it out. We didn't have to move anyone. Right.
Yeah.
But we had to move the Texans. Truthfully, the Texans were up here before, and we ended up moving the Texans down in order to get everything.
I was mapping it out in my head. I'm like, we're gonna have to move them down.
So last question for GPP. So people making like single entry type of lineup, small field, because you do the solo ship show, right? That's going to be on 3:30 today, Eastern. Yes. That's with Jam to Win. That you do it live, so people could on YouTube could see that later if you're subscribed to the channel. If you had a choice, so you have Mixon, Hall, like the chalk running backs, or the Dolphins. So like if you play the Dolphins, you cannot play Breece Hall and you cannot play Joe Mixon, right? Or you could play Hall or Mixon, but you can't play the Dolphins. Which would you rather do? I think I know your answer.
I'm going to go with the Dolphins. I'll play the Dolphins because there's so many good running backs that I want to get to. And I can't really argue against Breece Hall or Joe Mixon, but I can argue for a bunch of other guys that could potentially outscore him. Like Kenneth Walker, was an example I brought up. Kenneth Walker could easily outscore Joe Mixon at about the same price. So, and at a quarter of the ownership. Tyreek Hill is just underpriced. And sometimes we just want to take those things. I might be under the field if he does hit 40-45%. But he deserves the ownership. He's in a great spot.
Okay, so make sure to tune into Solo Ship later today. Or if you don't tune in live, obviously you'll see the video here on YouTube. John, you have you hit the nuts? You like hitting nuts?
Yeah, I got a lot of hitting the nuts I got to do today. Because we got a bunch of sports going on. So we have NFL going on, but we have it's our first Friday night of NBA, game 1 of the World Series, and UFC starting early tomorrow. So a lot to get done between now and 10 a.m. tomorrow. But it's good. It's great time of year for sports. So.
It's a great time of year to sign up for a combo premium package here at RotoGrinders. Get everything that we offer: Lineup HQ, SimLabs, all of our research tools, all of our statistical projections, which you could use to bet on props and on the pick'em sites like Prize Picks and Underdog. We have a props and pick'em package for that, and we have all these tables that makes it easy for you. Or you can just download all the CSVs, which is kind of what I do. So you get all of that for all the sports, especially with all of them going on. College football, yeah, we got college football also. We got cricket projections, for crying out loud. You could use them all. So join Combo Premium. Get $40 off your first month. click in the link in the description for more information on that, and hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Give me those thummy thumbs, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to always know when we go live. Tons of content today for NFL and NBA on the channel. Tune into the Sunday block, 9:30 in the morning on Sundays through 1 p.m. Eastern. And I will see you back on Monday, as I'm always here Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props, and pick'em on RotoGrinders Today.